Hi everyone, welcome back to Sabers. In today's video, I wanted to take a look at one of my favorite lightsabers and compare a few different versions of it. That lightsaber is the Luke Hero. And so I wanted to compare the version of the Luke Hero from Return of the Jedi to the version of the Luke Hero from The Last Jedi. For just a little bit of background knowledge, in case you're unfamiliar with the terminology, the Luke Hero refers to the hero prop. And so in Return of the Jedi, there were a few different versions of Luke's lightsaber that appear on screen. The most prominent of those are going to be the hero version of the prop, which we're talking about today, the V2, and the V3. So the V2 appeared in a lot of scenes, and it appeared in Battlefront, in the campaign, which is canon as well, and the V3 appeared in a lot of the stunt scenes as well. The Luke Hero actually only made it into one scene of Return of the Jedi. It also was in one of the deleted scenes as well. Despite that, however, it remains the canon version of Luke's lightsaber, so that's going to be this. Despite only appearing in one scene of Return of the Jedi, this is Luke's lightsaber hilt. That's what most of the toys are based off of, and it is what they based the sequel version of his lightsaber off of when they revisited the character in the sequels. Additionally, the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett lightsaber that Luke uses is also a hero version of the prop. So with that out of the way, we can kind of jump right into it here. I've got both versions here that I can show. So on the left, I have the Luke Hero from Return of the Jedi, and on the right, or on my right, I have the version from The Last Jedi. And so this version is Return of the Jedi, and this version is The Last Jedi. So this lightsaber is actually from 7chambers. It is their Magic of Myth lightsaber hilt. It is based off of the Magic of Myth traveling display that actually did show Luke's hero lightsaber from Return of the Jedi. I don't have the painted neck on there. I have the idealized copper for now. But we'll talk about that in a minute, but just know that the painted neck will actually be the most accurate version for that. And then this is going to be Dennis Lukyanov's version of the Last Jedi hilt. This is widely considered to be the most accurate Last Jedi hilt, and this is widely considered to be the most accurate FX Return of the Jedi hilt. So I've got both of them here, and I wanted to do a comparison. Just looking at them, we will go just from top to bottom. The first thing that you will notice is looking at the emitters. The Return of the Jedi prop is smooth, whereas the Last Jedi prop actually has this ring with holes, right? And so that is actually going to be reminiscent of, that's the sort of calling back to the Mark I hilt that Obi-Wan used in A New Hope. So that was all from, that hilt was made from found parts, like, you know, pretty much all of those lightsabers were. They were made from real-world objects that they just found, and that lightsaber hilt of Obi-Wan's did in fact have this ring appear. And then when they revisited that hilt for the prequels, they included that portion as well. So they added this in the sequels, I guess, just sort of as a reference and callback to that hilt, and just because it's pretty widely known that Luke took a lot of inspiration from Obi-Wan when building his lightsaber hilt, and so that's just another way that they added to the lore. Something else that you may or may not notice is going to be the hole in the top of the emitter section there, that little hole. It's present on both. It is bigger in the Last Jedi version of the prop, and actually in the Return of the Jedi prop, it actually is threaded, and a little set screw goes in there. Doesn't do anything except for decoration on the FX props. I'm sure that it originally had some sort of purpose in the real prop, but on this one, for The Last Jedi, there is nothing in there. It is just a hole. It's not threaded. So I would imagine that's probably how the actual prop is, although I couldn't say for sure. Moving down a little bit, the next thing that you will notice is probably also that the blade plug here is actually thinner, and probably about the same height, but it's thinner than the one on Return of the Jedi. And then if we move down a little more, we will see that the emitter cup on the Return of the Jedi hilt is actually quite a bit shallower. So the Last Jedi hilt has a pretty deep emitter cup compared to the Return of the Jedi hilt. Moving down a little more, we'll see that the necks are significantly different. And I don't just mean the finishing. Like I said, for this hilt, the most accurate neck finish is actually going to be a painted gold color. And I don't have that one on here right now. I have this idealized copper, but the shape is the same. So that's what we're really looking at here. The shape on the Last Jedi hilt is actually significantly thinner. And that's just that we're going to notice as we go through them. That's just a theme throughout the Last Jedi hilt. The whole thing is slimmed down. But the neck is quite a bit thinner. And then also the coloring of this, I want to mention, if you're going to buy this hilt, generally you will find it unweathered, and so the version I have is weathered, but generally it would come a bright brass color as opposed to this sort of darker aged brass, almost kind of copper color. And I'll put a picture on the screen, but the more accurate version would be weathered like this. And so just worth mentioning, if you're interested in either of these hilts, if you want the Creepy Uncle to be the most accurate, you'll want to weather it, because the hilt in the movie was made to look like weathered brass. Moving down a little more, the black section of the neck is equally as thin as the brass section above it. So on the Return of the Jedi prop, we've got the neck thicker in both sections. Moving down just a little more here, we're going to get to the grip section. This is commonly referred to as the grenade grip because it is based on, once again, Obi-Wan's lightsaber from A New Hope, and that section on Obi-Wan's lightsaber was made from a World War II grenade section on a rifle. And so these, of course, were not. Luke's saber was not, and of course, these replicas were not, but that's generally what it's called. And when you look at this here, you will notice that first of all, the grip section is significantly thinner, once again, on the Last Jedi prop. But then looking at the rings, you will notice a difference as well. So in Return of the Jedi, these rings were actually machined inaccurately, so they were not all even. And so you'll see you've got some of the rings are thick and some of the rings are thin. So you're going to have, a thick ring, and then you'll have like a thinner ring here, thinner ring here. Whereas on this hilt, they are all even and they are all thick. And to me, it almost looks like even the thickest ring on the Return of the Jedi prop is still a little bit thinner than the rings on this one here. Going down a little further, we're also going to notice that there are a few differences in the control box section. So for the Return of the Jedi prop, you've got a couple things going on that are different. So on the Return of the Jedi hero, you're going to have this plate here. This actually goes over the inset red and green arrows, and then you also have the red arrow is just a little bit offset. It's difficult to see, but they were not perfectly aligned when the original prop was made. So that's reflected here. In the Last Jedi prop, you don't have that reflected because that prop that they made, again, was idealized. And so they did not include that. You've got everything nice and even here. These are a bit of a brighter red and green color. I believe they stick out just a little bit more. They're a little bigger. I'll try to show them side by side here. And also, interestingly enough, this one has that plate that goes over the arrows. This one does not have a plate. It is one, let's see if I can show it here. It is one solid piece of metal along here. There is no plate, right? So these screws on the Return of the Jedi prop, they hold on a little plate, and I'll show that one more time. They hold on a little plate there. And the screws are also smaller on this one, I'm noticing. Something else to notice, and I don't have the clamp card installed in my Magic of Myth hilt right now, so I'm gonna have to show a different one instead. I've got my Ultimate Works hero here that does have the clamp card installed. The clamp cards are different. So this one has got a brass and black card, and this one has a copper and blue card. And that's going to be the same for the card that came with the 7chambers hilt as well. The Return of the Jedi prop had a blue, had blue lines and copper for the card that was used for the hero, whereas the Last Jedi had brass and black. Moving down just a little further, we're going to take a look at the pommel, which is really the only noticeable difference. Well, I guess I also should mention the box size. The whole hilt is slimmed down, so the box on the Creepy Uncle from The Last Jedi is actually a lot smaller than the one from Return of the Jedi. That's something to notice. But after that, I think really the biggest difference is just going to be the position of the tri-ring on the pommel. So I'll go ahead and show that here. On the Return of the Jedi prop, the tri-ring is almost aligned with the top of the control box. Not quite. It's offset just to the left a little bit. On the Last Jedi prop, you've actually got it, right off to the side. Almost a 90-degree angle. Not quite. So the positioning there is going to be quite a bit different. And something else to notice if you are purchasing these hilts, both of them come with a static and a vented pommel, and they're pretty much the same. The static pommel on both of them is just going to be static. There's no venting, and the vented pommel on both of them is going to be very similar as well. I've got the Creepy Uncle vented pommel right here. It's just got a small ring around the outside, and that's basically what the Magic of Myth 7chambers hilt has as well. It's just a ring on the outside, and that's where the sound vent's from. So that's pretty much all of the differences. I want to show one more thing before I finish the video. I wanted to show the difference between the idealized Ultimate Works Return of the Jedi grip section and the idealized grip section on the Last Jedi prop. So here you can see the Ultimate Works has these idealized grips that are all even, but they are thinner grips. The rings are still thinner than that of the Last Jedi prop. So the rings on this one are really quite thick, and it's not something that takes away from it at all. I think it actually really adds to the appearance of this hilt. But I also think that this one looks good too. So it's just a very different aesthetic that the Last Jedi has. It's idealized, it's refined, and just overall, it looks like, they took the original design and they worked all the kinks out, because when you're building props for a film, you've got budget deadlines and stuff like that, especially back in the 80s. And so, now with the franchise being as popular as it is, it looks like they kind of went back, took their time, erased the smudges, that kind of thing. So I think that's really neat, that the hilt is, this is sort of their take on if it had been, perfect from the start, perhaps. That being said, I don't think that I like it any better than the Return of the Jedi prop. I don't think I like it any worse than the Return of the Jedi prop either. It's just different. It feels very nice in the hand because it's so slim. And, when I first saw it, I thought, I'm probably not going to like it because the neck is so thin. And in all of the photos you see, it really looks very, very thin, the neck does. But in person, it actually looks quite nice. It doesn't look, It doesn't look too thin in person, and actually looking at the Return of the Jedi prop now, side by side, the Return of the Jedi prop looks, the neck looks very thick, but you know, overall, those are all of the main differences in the two. I just wanted to cover the basic differences between the Return of the Jedi Luke Hero prop and the Last Jedi prop, especially because I was able to show the what's widely considered to be the most accurate version of each. Having the 7chambers Magic of Myth and the Creepy Uncle to compare really gives a really nice baseline to kind of show the difference between the two hilts. So I'm going to end the video with just a side-by-side still shot of them so that you can look at them that way. And until next time, thank you for watching, joining me today on Ilum Sabers, and I'll catch you in the next video.